The information expressed in the following podcast is intended for educational purposes only and was created by and belongs solely to Believe Limited and the Flow podcast and does not necessarily reflect the views of our sponsors. Please speak to your healthcare provider before making any medical decisions.
Welcome once again to Flow. I'm here like every month with the great and powerful Sarah Watson, sex therapist, and we want to know, how's your flow? Welcome once again to Flow. Before we do our quick check-in to normalized menstruation with how we are flowing and what's going on with our blood realities, what is the opposite of flow? We had a quick pre-discussion and we came up with chunky.
Clotty.
Well,
chunky, yes, was number one, but clotty is second.
Okay.
If we're speaking about flowing menstrual blood, it's not
sure. It can either be very flowy,
right,
or
clotty. I'm going clotty.
And in the extreme cases, we know clots are common. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But above a quarter size, not okay.
More extreme.
Correct.
Well, we had a little bit of a clotty start today. I just want to share out of gratitude for it takes a village to make a podcast. It takes a village to have a good flow. And it does. It's a group sport to make sure things are flowing well, to check in about when they're a little chunky, clotty. Shout out to Joshua Sterling Bragg of Bloodstream Media and Believe Limited, who saved our day today. Kay Vermeil. Alex Watson, our new editor. So, we have another Watson on the team. Alex Watson will be editing. He is on the job.
Hello.
And of course, Keith Corneluk, head of podcasts. Yes. Amy Board for leading us here, where we are going to get to speak with Gillian Welch, or more specifically, we already spoke with Gillian Welch, and Sarah and I are going to talk about taking on the new habit of running, because Gillian Welch is a running coach in the UK who also has experienced endometriosis. We have much to get into. Real quick, how are you flowing? Non-bleeding, Sarah
non-bleeding,
Watson.
but probably, I was traveling last month and it jacked everything up, but I think I'm close to ovulation because I'm feeling the things, like things are happening. They're like close. So, but I don't know. I need to figure it out, but I think my body just needs to slow down. Like
slowing down is good.
Yeah, I'm trying to listen to it. So I will be slowing down after we're done with this podcast today. So.
Right. I'm drinking a Celsius, so we're going to stay energetic for a little bit longer before you get to slow down. Being on a full flow with hormonal, with the IUD.
Yeah.
Stopping the bleed. What is the symptom you still experience that lets you know you're ovulating?
It's like really, I want to say medium. No, I'd say like mild to moderate, like little baby cramps.
Baby cramps.
They're not big, but it's like, oh, hello ovaries, hello uterus. Like things are happening, like or they will be happening. Then this is all like, again, this has only happened since I had my kid. So I never felt this before I had her. I would not have any clue unless I was counting on the calendar when I would ovulate. I mean, you can tell by cervical fluid.
Experience.
Right.
You can't. Okay, right.
Yeah, right.
But
Like you can tell
feel
from
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't feel
like after
it
you
before.
went through birth and went through so much attention on that organ and how that organ feels to be in your body. Is there's like more ability to feel it? Moving at all?
I don't know what it is. I think it's just a magical power.
I know you have magical powers, Sarah Watson, obviously. You've been leading with them on this show now for going on years, which I'm so grateful for. What it is to check in with someone about how they're flowing monthly. It's a highly recommended action, right? We used to talk all the time about how just talking about your flow helps resolve some issues, learning about how other people are experiencing it, because we don't have the facts. We don't know why you might feel more of your ovulation post-birth. There haven't been clinical studies that we can point to scientifically, and we are a clinically minded show. Right. But we also feel the magic powers that happen during certain times of the cycle. I, for one, again, am just post-ovulating and felt some crampy action this time.
Oh.
I just feel more of like, I'm thinking of myself like a plant. Yeah. And definitely during ovulation, I feel a bit more like,
Are you releasing a new leaf with that action that's happening? Yeah. Like it's...
yeah, that is the metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it reminded me of, that action.
Yeah. Just growing a little bit,
Just
That's what's happening.
Yeah, I like it. That's my growing sounds.
Cheers. I can't wait for you to voice an entire animated series. Yes.
Oh,
great.
geez. That could be hilarious.
We're going to think about that during this quick break, and we'll be right back.
This ad is brought to you by Von Vendi, Von Willebrand Factor Recombinant.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I didn't always feel empowered to speak up for myself or ask for the care and support I needed. Becoming part of a community and hearing other people's experiences helped to change my perspective. That's why my deciding factor is making my voice heard. To hear my story and access other helpful resources, drop by Von Vendi, that's VONVENDI.com/patient-stories.
I think we're charming. I feel like a little bit on Celsius, but okay, great.
Well, I've had lots of coffee today. I've had a venti coffee plus a coffee here at home. So I've had regular coffee and then Starbucks coffee. So I'm good. Did you see that TikTok of the woman who drank 2 Celsiuses and then felt like she was going to space? Or she was having a heart attack? You got to look it up. It's hilarious. It's scary and hilarious at the same time, but she was losing her mind. She was wow. What the fuck do they put in these things? And was in it's so good.
Oh, it's so real.
Yeah.
It's so real.
Totally.
We're just going to assume we're back now.
Yes.
We both have listened to, or I got to talk to Gillian. You have listened to Gillian's words.
I love running. And it's funny, as a child, I was the kid that would always skip out on PE, on doing sports at school. My teachers probably thought I had maybe 2 weeks of periods a month because I would always pretend that I was sick or I was ill or I had my period and I couldn't do workouts. And it was only in moving to Canada 9 years ago where I wanted to be more fit and more active. And even though the winters here in Toronto are awful, so many people are out running and being active in the snow and the ice and the snowstorms. And so I took it up then. And that over other sports, I love how it's not just about physical, but it's mental as well. It's just such a good way to get rid of all of the stresses and the frustrations of the day and just focus on me versus me. And I'm like a broken record. It's listening to my body and doing what feels good at the moment. And it just slowly escalated into me doing all these certifications to learn stuff for myself that then turned into a business. And I've been doing it full time now for the last 2 years, but really focusing on the individual. It's not a one size fits all. And similar what we're saying in terms of periods. And I can't just create one program for one person and have it the same as for someone else. It's really listening to what the runner wants and needs and what their body is able to do. And there's just so many facets of running that I'm really enjoying, not only as a runner, but as a coach, and now getting into more of a field of supporting people that menstruate and recognizing what's going on in their bodies. Because I've learned so much for my own knowledge from just knowing that I now have endometriosis and cysts, that I can help other people as well. It's opened my eyes up to this whole other way of movement and nourishing a body. And so I love running. I love all things running. And now there's just a little bit of an extra twist in the story with my endo diagnosis.
Wow, what an inspiration. We're going to talk about why we adore her. But also, after you listened to her, I said on the interview that I was going to go for a run, and I just have to confess, I did not. I went on a walk, not a run.
You moved your body.
I'm not a runner.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you alluded to, you didn't allude. You said, Sarah's going to want to go for a run after this. And I said, absolutely not, when I was listening to it and started laughing. There's really like, unless I got to save my kid from something, I'm not running. I'm just not going to do it. Just
Yeah, unless you're in the Sarah Connor training of like,
yeah.
for the dystopian future of Terminator. then
Right. I
maybe
mean,
you'll-
because you never know.
Fair.
Right.
I would train to run to outrun zombies, but I would find me hard pressed to run otherwise. And yet, listening to Gillian Welch had me wanting to run. Not only had me wanting to run, but inspired that I could run even if I'm menstruating, which is something I feel like I've been warned against. And not only if I'm menstruating, but perhaps if I had endo.
Yeah.
Because Gillian
Amazing.
has a story of surviving endo symptoms in a running career.
It's wild. Wild. Yeah, I don't think that we get that message, right? As women, that like, as you know, we get the get back on the horse, right? As our favorite reference to our favorite comedian. But we don't get that like, hey, like you can do anything, right? Like if I feel like it would just like be so heavy, my uterus.
Well,
I don't know.
I know. And so I'm trying to remember from the interview. I know you've maybe listened more recently than me.
Yeah.
She mentioned that it's not about like fighting through pain, right? It's about working with, it's about figuring out how your body wants to move based on that pain.
Right. So if you're feeling like heavy, right? Like in regards to your uterus, like if you're feeling heavy or crampy, then maybe you just don't sprint, right? Like move your body. Move it. And you know, she said something so funny. I'm sure you can pull it, but it was like running is just walking quickly or something along those lines.
Well, it's just such a good way to get rid of all of the stresses and the frustrations of the day and just focus on me versus me. And I'm like a broken record. It's listening to my body and doing what feels good at the moment. And it just slowly escalated into me doing all these certifications to learn stuff for myself that then turned into a business. And I've been doing it full time now for the last 2 years, but really focusing on the individual. It's not a one size fits all. And similar what we're saying in terms of periods. And I can't just create one program for one person and have it the same as for someone else. It's really listening to what the runner wants and needs and what their body is able to do. And there's just so many facets of running that I'm really enjoying, not only as a runner, but as a coach. And now getting into more of a field of supporting people that menstruate and recognizing what's going on in their bodies.
Well, and I would love to ask about that. I have to say, it's such a shame. Our co-host, Sarah, she's going to love when we listen to and discuss this interview. She constantly says she's not a runner. She's not a runner, people. But after this call, after this convo, she's going to be like, let's go running. I think it's like, sounds good. It sounds like a good idea.
We can all run. We can all run. It's just walking faster. That's all. Just different speeds of walking faster.
I was like, okay, maybe I could do that. Like, but yeah, these ankles
like that.
aren't taking it. Yeah, no, not happening.
Ankles for you, so knees for me. I can feel it in my knees. Like something I'm doing is holding my leg incorrectly so that my knees feel some strain. You feel it in your ankles.
Yeah. Since I was a teenager, that was like my first, like this is hemophilia stuff, right? So I remember probably at summer camp, or maybe it was like after 8th grade volleyball or softball or something, being like, this does not feel good, right? Like this isn't great. And I remember it being pretty painful. And so I just was like, no, I'm not. And I've tried to be a runner. It's cute. Like, it's cute. I've done a 5K. Never again.
What is a 5K? What does that mean again?
So it's like
so many
3.6. I don't know. It's in kilometers. I don't know.
Did you jog it? Did you run it?
I ran most of it with a friend. It wasn't like a fun one. It was like a color run. So you got like bombed with colors. And it was actually a fundraiser for HIV awareness in Detroit, which was lovely. And so totally pulled on my heart, like definitely close to my heartstrings. Ran with a huge group of women, which was great. But my best friend and I ran together, Dr. Jessica Foley. And yeah. And we ran most of it. But it's not my thing. Like, just not for me. It's okay.
There.
Yeah.
We should maybe do some content of us running to use in support of this episode. Just
I
bring
can
your
film
phone
that.
outside at some point. Yeah,
Sure.
please. Okay.
I'm filming right now too, as well.
Oh, fabulous. Angles. Do you remember, now I'm thinking of running. Do you remember Friends, the Phoebe run? Do you remember that episode of Friends? What is it? It's like about running like a kid would run, right? There's something about trying to get the right form that always seems, and Gillian talks about this, I'm sure we'll cut away to it, but of what, the form is and how your body is matters, but something about the freedom of just skipping or explosive running is good for the body and isn't about necessarily having to do it right.
So, like I say this to my running clients all the time, that you need to listen to your body because you're the only one that really can hear and feel what is going on with your body. And that completely applies here, in that I'm the only one that knows how I'm feeling. So leaning into what feels good for me. So what I've discovered recently is having a freezer full of soups and stews and things that are easy to prepare, certainly on day 1 to day 3, because there was a time where I would maybe have a bowl of porridge a day because I felt so bad. I didn't want to get up to prepare food. The thought of food I didn't want anything. Whereas now having options, and specifically foods that are warming, and I've heard that having things that could warm up the uterus is certainly really helpful at that time. So being prepared in my luteal phase to having a freezer full of delicious things really helps me know that I've got foods available that I can eat, that will be nourishing, that will help my cramps, that will just help me feel good. So that is absolutely key. Doing meal planning, meal prepping, getting organized. Second is when I know that I'm going to have really bad periods, or certainly when my period is coming, is clear my calendar as much as possible and not feeling guilty about binge watching TV shows, and really giving myself the space and the time just to relax and recover and not feel pressured to rush back to work or rush back to life. What else? I think educating myself as well. Like I've done so much reading, listening, learning over the last couple of years since my diagnosis, that the more knowledge that I have, I feel like I'm then armed with more in my arsenal to know what to do in terms of movement and eating and recognizing the different stages that my body is going through. Like for movement, I certainly as a runner, I felt as though that my running career was over, that I wouldn't be able to do running like I used to do it. But it's, again, listening to my body. And there's certain phases of my cycle that running is the best thing for me. And then there's other times where some really gentle stretching or yoga or just something really gentle. And again, just leaning into what my body needs at that time, to just throw everything out the window of what I thought I knew, and now just really going internally, just figuring out what I need when I need it. And certainly with endometriosis, everyone's experience is different. Or with any condition, PCOS, cysts, even just periods in general, everyone's is different. So it's working out what works best for the individual. So what works best for me might not work for you, and a variation of it might work for someone else. So it's finding out what I need. But yeah, that would probably be my key things, like listening to my body, filling up the freezer, being really kind to myself and moving however feels good, and reading and listening and learning to recognize what's going on in my body and what I can do to help it even more.
Yeah, have you watched kids run lately? It's hilarious.
No, what is your little one like?
Well, she's really fast.
Really fast.
Yeah, she's like I'm not just saying this because she's my kid. Like she's actually just legitimately a very fast runner. I don't know how long she'll last being a fast runner, but she kills it. But there are other members of my family that may not run like that. And we all know that one is not the athletic runner. She's more like me and her mom. My niece, she doesn't listen to this, so I will say it. Yeah, she's only 8, but she's not a runner. But yeah, and then watching kids on the playground when they get out of school, it's it's very funny because some of them are really fast and some of them are like just like, what happened to you? Like, what is going on in your body? Yeah, it's very funny. Yeah, like it's just hilarious.
Yeah. Do you what time of day is it that you see people run in your area of the world in Michigan?
Oh, well, it depends on the weather here, right? Like, so this morning, we have some runners in our neighborhood, and so they're either usually morning or dusk, like before dusk. But in the summer, it's definitely earlier because it gets pretty hot and humid here. So it's usually morning. Usually morning. Saw someone today. She was just chugging along. And good for her.
It's amazing when folks seem to like be in that zone. Like I haven't hit a runner's wall, but I can understand in theory the idea of like if they can just get to that pace, then they're just they're like a machine's just moving. It's like a car going. People are just the ground seems to be moving faster underneath them. It's exciting. I can see that, but I don't necessarily experience it.
I think when she was talking about like how she takes care of herself when she's feeling, did she call it a flare? I don't know what she called it though. Like, she didn't call it a flare up, but she was talking about like having her refrigerator, like or her freezer stocked with like soups and things like that. And I thought that was just she said something that warmed her uterus. And I just really loved how she said that. Like, how do you take care of your body when you are, right? Like, so obviously movement is taking care of your body, which is lovely, but also how are you nourishing your body when you are going through extreme bleeding? Right? Really important. What is going to feel good, right? And not feel weighed down anymore or cause pain or gas. I would say that's not fun to feel as well. Bloated.
Well, you're talking about being prepared, and that's what she was talking about too, right? Being able to be prepared. The fact that so many times an extreme condition of menstruation or extreme moment of menstruation can feel like we don't have the responsibility, the ability to respond to the need of it. Either it's too much blood, we're not prepared. But if we can anticipate an extreme condition, if we can be preppers for extreme menstrual moments, then having things ready to go, almost automated, what you need nutrient-wise in your freezer so you don't have to even procure it. Knowing that you have in your bathroom a stack of the kind of pads or period underwear, safe kind, that you might need or want available so you don't have to be placing an order or asking a family member to support later, but getting ahead of your own schedule. I mean, this is why menstruators were the inventors of the calendar.
Yes,
we are. To track, to be ahead of anticipating the first day of menstruation, which is the first day of a new cycle.
Yeah. I would say,
Being
just
prepared is our superpower.
And it's like, well, you know, and my other thought, the flip side of that is like, of course we have to prepare for something else as women, right? Like we already have the mental load of like just being a woman in this world, but let alone like preparing to take care of yourself, right? Like to have that stocked, to have to think ahead. Okay, we're always thinking ahead, I think, as women of like, how can we make sure we're okay here? Do I have water? Do I have this? Do I have that? Am I wearing the right thing? And then I think, you know, I had a recent story of a friend. I was and she would be okay with me sharing this, I'm sure. Her the owner of my gym, where she like ran and she's like, oh, and she came back and she's like, I just started my period everywhere. And she's like, and then I had to call my husband and her husband also trains us at the gym. And he had to like bring her pants. And then she asked for a specific box of tampons. And he went to 3 different stores looking for, I just snorted. He went to 3 different.
I know, it was so sweet. It was like so endearing that it made you snort. It was really,
I was like, oh my God,
sweet.
I love him.
A man going to 3 different stores. Make it normal. Yes.
Yes. But also he went to 3 different stores because he was looking for something that didn't exist. So based on the color system of the size of tampons, right? So again, can we normalize like, hey, even if we're not prepared, how to ask for, right? And they should all know what we're asking for, right? If your partner should know.
Yeah, well, and going back to like you're saying, we already have to deal with so much as women. It's like, yeah, but to go back to baseline, all
Yeah.
humans need to know where a clean water source is, need to know
Yes.
where they can release defecation and urine safely, need to know where their food is, need to know like all these things.
Yeah.
The idea that menstruation is extra as opposed to just part of those, that's part of the baseline. That's
Yeah.
part of the baseline for everyone, whether or not you menstruate. Just like it's a vital sign, just like a blood pressure for a doctor to check menstrual reality.
Right.
Every human should know that caring for blood coming out of a body is a normal thing.
No.
It's one of the amazing things about acceptance of menstruation within the bleeding disorders community because blood is not seen as shameful because interacting with extreme blood is part of reality. Menstruation kind of gets like a pass of like, it's okay because we also understand it's a totally different system, a totally different kind of acceptance. Or no, you're giving me a face.
I'm giving you the face because I have just, I don't think so. I have heard from partners and the people that menstruate themselves that I don't think that that's always the outlook. I think it depends on the relationship that the person has with their own body and the fact that if they do have a bleeding disorder, what that means for them. So there can be, we hear so often in our community, right, of people being diagnosed women, menstruators, being diagnosed much later in life, like having a kid with a bleeding disorder if they are having a child, and then knowing like, oh, okay, now it is. But they had like this other relationship with, oh, I have all of this bleeding and it's ridiculous and I'm frustrated with it and it's looks like a murder scene. I mean, I've said that before, right, where these are the experiences that women have, and that's how they describe it. It looks like a murder scene. So I think it depends.
We need more period horror films to explain menstruation. No, okay, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Side note. Yeah.
Side note, other project.
Yes.
Yes. But yeah, I think it depends on the person, their relationship to it. And I don't know if people that don't menstruate are really understanding what that means because we've been conditioned to just take care of it and hide it, right? You were talking about with Gillian, like, you don't need to put the tampon up your sleeve to hide it. Like, it's
well, right.
Right.
And that's, I guess, like, I know that there are some non-menstruators who experience nosebleeds and have been offered tampons to resolve it, which I guess is like, this is some of the bridge I'm trying to make, because that has to be okay, because in a crisis moment, whatever works is okay.
Right.
There's the potential for there to be less shamed stigma. There's the potential for it.
Yes.
And there's also like an understanding of coping with cotton for blood.
Yes. I think we have a long, unfortunate road to keep going down. I don't think we're there yet.
No, but we didn't come this far to only come this far.
Being British, it's definitely uncomfortable talking about bodily things, but I think it's really important, especially given that I am in the running community, to talk about these things because I didn't know what was happening to me. So if me talking about it helps women be like, oh, actually, yeah, my period is really sore too, and then hopefully go and see someone or explore a little bit more about what's going on in their body, then I'd rather be uncomfortable for half an hour talking about it than not. And I think, we need to have more conversations as society on what's going on in our bodies and get rid of the stigma or the embarrassment of what we're experiencing, because we're all people, we're all human, and it's very likely that there's at least one other person out there that has similar symptoms. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me today, and happy to chat further at any time in the future.
Really? Okay, great. We'll schedule some more. What's hilarious, wait, you mentioned being British, and yes, the shame or the etiquette of not discussing bodily function versus I'm quite comfortable myself talking about the blood, something I didn't learn shame about. So here I am. But it's fun to learn like the little ways we don't talk about it. Were there any how would you describe, if you didn't want to say it publicly, what was not to make you speak for all of Britain, but what was the British way to demurely acknowledge bodily function, such as a period? Is there any phrasing?
Certainly in the UK, I would have called it my time of the month.
Okay.
That's how I would indicate that I was on my period, but I wouldn't like I wouldn't even go to the pharmacy or like a CVS equivalent. I wouldn't even go with a friend to go and buy pads. I would buy pads by myself, and often I would then load up my basket with other things on top of the pads so nobody would see. And it wasn't like I was buying like super, super, super heavy flow pads. It was just like regular medium flow, but I was still embarrassed by.
Why would the super be more embarrassing? I love it. It's so hilarious, right? Why would the super be more embarrassing?
I don't know. And am I then putting 2 or 3 layers of stuff on top of the pads versus just one? I don't know. It never even occurred to me to question why I would have thought that would have been more embarrassing. But it wasn't a thing. Like, yeah, I would never talk to anybody about it, or like if I was out somewhere and my period came on or I needed a new product, it would be done quietly. Like I remember being at a job a few years ago and my period came on and I didn't expect it. So I'd gone to the bathroom to get a pad from the vending machine, and the machines gobbled up my money and didn't give me a product out. So then I went to the next washroom, and again, same thing happened. So I'd lost 2 amounts of money and didn't have any products. And I went up to the receptionist who I knew, and I was like, this is really embarrassing, but like the machine stole my money. Like, do you have any behind the desk? And this was only maybe 4 years ago, and still embarrassed to ask another human that will have had periods if they had something behind their desk. It was just always, for me, something that was a bit more hush hush.
Hush, hush. Yes, it's funny. And I've spoken recently to some menstrual advocates about how it is naturally occurring blood. It's funny that makes us so uncomfortable. Like unnaturally occurring blood, like violent occurring blood would be unsettling. But this is
weird, right?
Yeah. Just
yeah.
blood.
And
yeah.
I was reading about how the contraception pill, when it came in, when it was mainstream, at that point, there wasn't the bleed. It was, you took your pills, there was nothing, or maybe you took the pills continuously, but it was unsettling for people when there wasn't any blood. So women weren't taking it. Yeah, there is the stigma around bleeding on your period, but yet it was added into contraception pills because it was seen as strange to not have a bleed. Weird.
Very weird. We need the bleed to be there and be ashamed of it as women. That's the thing. We need it to be there, but also be ashamed of it. That's the lesson.
Well, we need all this guilt and shame and yes, yeah, of course.
It is.
Yeah, it is wild, isn't it? How we've just, for generations, it's been something that's had to be hidden away or been ashamed of or not to be discussed. I like that it's now something that is more widely talked about and shared, and hopefully there are more generations now that it's just completely normal to talk to your friends and go shopping to buy products and not be embarrassed, and
ask a dude receptionist for a pad too, to be like, hey, you guys have any supplies back there? That's the world.
I wouldn't. I would have probably gone to the supermarket before asking a dude.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have even. No, if there was a guy on reception, nope. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Nope.
See, that's the new.
And then there'd be times where. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to say there'd be times where I'd roll up a pad in as small amount as possible so it couldn't then be seen if you were holding it. Like you might see the bright green peeking through the top of your hand, but it would be scrunched up so small. So then when you're walking to the washroom, no one would know it was there.
Sure. I should like tampon up the sleeve situation. Yes. No one's gonna see. It's wild. Sarah can talk about her little ones and how she asks them to help pass her pads, and how, there's a lot more of that youth education happening. So it will be a new world. We'll be like foreign to the new world at that time.
I know, that would be nice.
So it'd be
And
neat.
so much of it is mindset, certainly in the just women not believing that they can do things, or that they're good enough to put themselves and their goals and their dreams first. And certainly women that are mothers and just don't give themselves time to do these things. But there's just so much in going out and achieving your goals and believing that you can do things that you never thought you possibly could. And like you said, like trying things that perhaps you enjoyed as a kid, but then over time you just stopped doing them, or had period pains and weren't able to do it. And there's just life's too short. Why not just go after your dreams, try everything that you possibly can, and just enjoy stuff?
So do you think it's almost like it's about knowing your limits? What could we could foster the convo around like pushing through what you think are limits, but also knowing yourself enough to cut yourself slack from, because the athletic push, Olympian push to always be the best doesn't speak to the menstrual experience, just the balance.
Again, it's listening to your body. I always say never to listen to your mind, but to listen to your body, because the mind it's a little trickster, and it will convince you to not go out for the run. It will convince you to pull back on your pace. It will convince you that you're not good enough to go after this goal of running a 5K or a marathon, what it is. But it's listening to your body, because the body, it's designed to tell you what to do and how to do things. And listening to what it's telling you in the moment. Can you push a little bit more? Do you need to ease off? And like I said earlier, like you're the only one that knows what's going on in your body. So it's really just being tuned into that and just ignoring what's said up here. Like here is just a bullshit liar. It's getting into your body and having fun with it. Because when you have fun with things, that's when your shoulders come down, you relax more, you just enjoy the whole process, and it just feels so much better than if you're like, oh, I need to run really fast. Oh my God, I'm not hitting the times. Oh, panic stations and all that shit that comes with it.
We're going to continue talking about it, right? Like, it's normal. We all came from someone who menstruated. Yeah. Right?
Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. I've been thinking about that. We've been doing this for months now too. Like, right, we got to keep it. It's like a good song now. You just got to repeat the chorus. It's normal. Bleeding is normal. Take care of your menstruation. Do whatever you need to do. Menstruation normal. Remix this.
It's our new theme song. Oh, she was blown off by some physicians.
So what was your diagnosis like, if we can take a moment for it? I know we're almost at time.
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, it wasn't like I was going for tests specifically to do with my period. I just had a bunch of things going on. My doctor just dismissed it all, said it'll be fine, you're just stressed, you've got flu, and all of these things just so happened to happen at the same time. And then it happened again about 6 months later. And I was like, right, no, I want some tests. Send me for all the tests you possibly can. So I went for hearing tests, eyesight tests, 3 different types of ultrasounds, x-rays, blood tests, you name it. Whatever was free from the Canadian system is what I went for. And my experience of finding out that I had endo and cysts, I got an email from my doctor saying the ultrasound results have come in. It looks like you've got some cysts and endometriosis. And that was it. There was no, you're going to be fine. Here are some resources. This was the first time that I'd heard of endometriosis and cysts. So my brain initially went, oh my God, I've got cancer. I'm going to die. I had no idea at all. So it was quite scary. It was. And it wasn't until, I went back to her and I was like, well, what does this mean? It wasn't until I went to see a naturopath who got the ultrasound results from my doctor, and she was able to explain it a little bit more to me. And my doctor really did kind of downplay what I had. It turns out I do have cysts on both sides, on both my ovaries, but on my right ovary, it has become immobile because there's an endometrial lesion or adhesion. So I've always had this, or not always, like over the last 5 years, I've had this kind of tugging on my right hand side, not knowing what it was, but it's because, well, our ovaries are supposed to just be kind of floating around in there, but mine's is stuck because of the endometriosis. But yeah, so my naturopath was fantastic and was able to kind of give me more information about what the ultrasound results mean. And from that point onwards, I was really just trying to educate myself because I felt a little let down by my doctor. And I was constantly just advocating for myself. Like, I want some more ultrasounds, please. I want to see if there are more cysts, if things have grown. Can you send me to some specialists? It was me driving the conversation. Without that, I don't think I would be where I am today, just in my fight, in the fire in my belly to have answers and to stop being in this pity party state of mind that I was in for quite some time. Now like I said, I read constantly to figure out what I can do to support myself, because I've not really had great experience with the specialists. Everyone has said, take progesterone, off you go on your way. But no one's ever done a hormone test on me to check to see if the hormone, if progesterone is out of whack. It could be that the estrogen's too high. So in taking progesterone, then yes, okay, it's maybe in line with the estrogen, but then if estrogen and progesterone are now high, then things are going to get even crazier. So I don't want to say I've lost faith in the medical system, but certainly this has made me question things more than I have. Like, this is my first health challenge that I've had as an adult. So it's really just been a journey to learn as much as I can to support myself, to then know what questions to ask, to know what supplements would be probably good for me to take at different times of my cycle, and really just do me, just learn what I can for myself, because my doctor hasn't been great. And one of the specialists that I went to gave me 90 seconds of his time.
What?
He called me, gave me 90 seconds. And in that time, I maybe said 5 words to him because he was so patronizing and being like, yep, no, this is what you need. Your case is like super simple, open, close case. Here's progesterone. What's your pharmacy? Okay, like, go collect the prescription. Like, it's super basic. Like, you don't need to worry about this stuff. Okay, yes, maybe what I've currently got is considered mild. I don't know. But he was such an ass. Such an ass. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely something missing. There's a bridge we hope these conversations continue to explore. We do talk to clinicians sometimes. We talk to those working to make sure that they can disseminate knowledge they have to others who are not as informed, because clearly in the medical sector, a vast majority of people, women included, but male-leaning providers are not informed about the kind of space that needs to be open for dialogue to actually investigate the period. The period is a vital sign. It's not treated as one, but like the heart rate or blood pressure, it is a vital sign, indicative of so much. And that guy's a
And
jerk.
the fact that, certainly for endometriosis, everyone's experience of it is so different. Like, even the experts struggle with it at times. Like, I was reading a book and it was a conference for endo specialists. So doctors, surgeons, all of that kind of stuff. And the facilitator had a bunch of different photos of, I guess, innards. And the doctors were asked to raise their hand when they could spot endo lesions or that this patient would have endo challenges. So hands were going up and down throughout the different pictures. And it turns out all of the pictures did indicate, like the patient did have endometriosis. So even the experts, because it just looks so different, it's not a, yes, I can do this blood test and I know that you have it, or yes, I can open you up and have a look inside, and yes, I know for certain that that's what endo is, because it is so different. And it's not just for people that identify as women. There are also men and people that identify as men that have endo as well. It's just that women, because of our hormone fluctuations throughout our cycle, it's worse for us. Like guys, their hormone cycle is 24 hours. So it's not as bad for them, but they do, it has been found, endometriosis has been found in guys as well, but it's just so vastly different for everyone. It's hard. So even those experts don't always have the answers, and that's the people that are up to date on what's going on. Like a general practitioner doesn't have all the answers. Like they can't have all the answers about everything.
And they certainly aren't going to find more answers by spending 90 seconds on a call. It is so
90
nuts.
seconds.
Now, this is, we are dealing in two different healthcare systems. This is part of the, is that the case with other specialist experiences, or has that been siloed in the reproductive?
So I've seen two specialists in Ontario, Canada, and they were vastly different. Both for the endometriosis, my doctor had sent me to one specialist, but her wait list was a year. So then she sent me to this other guy, and the other guy was the 90 seconds guy. So the female specialist, she gave me maybe 45 minutes of her time, but so she was better. So yeah, I'm maybe, just a showcase in the worst case scenario, but she was better. However, the end results that she was giving me was still pretty much exactly the same as the guy. She gave me a progesterone prescription, again, with not checking my hormone levels or doing any tests other than looking at the ultrasound that I had initially that showed that I had cysts. That was all that she was going on. So it is still disappointing that there isn't more in the kind of mainstream medical field. Like if I was to pay out of pocket, I can get so many more other tests and have much more, much greater insight into what is going on in my body. But just the way it currently is in Ontario, probably Canada wide, there's just not those resources available. But yeah, the medical system, certainly after COVID and the pandemic, wait lists are just huge to get to see people in the first place. I don't know what it's like in the US. I'm assuming it's probably similar.
Yeah. Oh, it's weird out here. It's just weird. I mean, it's stuff. Yeah. We can get in places now, but the kind of care you receive, or if your insurance will cover it, is still a game of advocacy to the max. Being able to speak up for oneself is like a life or death thing. And
it's hard when you're in pain, or I guess just chronic pain. It's hard to speak up for yourself. And if you're trusting in someone in a white coat and you're trusting that they are doing the best that they can for you, it's hard to speak up for yourself. Like I said, I've been in a pity party for quite a while, thinking that this was the luck of my draw and that I would be in pain or discomfort for 1 to 2 weeks a month. And it's only been in trying to learn a little bit more and speak up for myself that I've been able to get a few more answers and understand things a bit more. But being in chronic pain, it's hard to shout and ask for all these tests and be put on wait lists, and it's a bit broken.
Oh, that got me heated. Yes. How she had 90 seconds. She kept saying that doctor gave her 90 seconds of his, I'm assuming his time. I think it was a male physician. One would, okay, I'm sure to say that, but her physician, let's try that again. Her physician gave 90 seconds of time and basically kind of sent her on her way, and it's not normal. Like the fact that she had to continue to advocate for herself, which I think our, the bleeding disorders community is so familiar with. And I think people that menstruate in general are used to having to advocate for ourselves when physicians are not trained. And that if you have a feeling about a physician and you are not feeling heard or understood, it is time to find another physician. And I realize that's a privileged thing to say, and you may not have someone else to see, but if you can hop on the internet, you can do some research and try to find someone else, or how to advocate for yourself when you are in the room with a physician. And I'll throw back to Dr. Yusi when she was on with us, right? She talked about, and I was like, this is so brilliant, right? Like, bring someone with you, right? When just because they're a physician doesn't mean that, they're the expert in endo. They're probably not. So bring somebody with you, advocate for yourself. But physicians should always give you more than 90 seconds of their time.
Yes, give you room to ask questions, give you space and time to digest the information they may be delivering. I mean, this is the structural change that is needed, right? We can comprehend compassion for physicians being busy or not perhaps having complete training on everything. All they need to be aware of is that they might not be aware of something. And then on the other hand, it's like the way that all doctors would know you don't leave a patient who's thirsty without water. You don't leave a patient who's menstruating extremely without a resolution. You don't leave them with that's just normal. You don't leave someone who's dehydrated with, well, you just have to kind of deal with that now. You'd know to bring water. You'd know to respond. Something about structurally understanding that baseline, again, it's a baseline health point, needs to be adopted.
Yeah, I was going to say, but that's not adopted here, right? Like, it's just not, unfortunately. And again, that's why I would advocate, like, do your research. See who's in the area, right? Whether it's endo, whether it's perimenopause, menopause, like what's going on. If you're feeling all of these changes in your body, make sure you're speaking to someone who is actively listening to you. And yes, we love our physicians. I'm not dogging them, but they're all not specialists. And I know you only have X amount of time. And I know you only have X amount of time to see a client. I get it. I know those CPT codes myself. But get on it, right? Like, take care of yourselves, and physicians learn more.
Physicians learn more. And like you're saying, a call to arms to learn yourself, to advocate for yourself. That is just a necessary part of things in our world here in America, to become more educated. Luckily, there are activists and people we've had on this show who are running programs like Girology or, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. Like Girology and period.org and so many organizations, we'll list them in the show notes, that we've had on this show who are out there to help educate. So even if your physician only has 90 seconds, follow up with some of these free resources.
Yes.
Connect with people who can connect you with physicians in your area who are able to respond to your needs. Don't get left out even when the door is closed on what you're claiming, what your pain is. If you're exclaiming your pain and you're not getting a response, continue to find a way. We will list in these show notes some of those organizations. We'll be back next year with so much more flow, a smooth flow, and even if there's cloddy flow, we'll be here to talk about it. Right, Sarah?
Absolutely. We love all the flows.
Wow, I'm going to go for a run now. What? This is so inspiring. I might need to approach you for remote coaching in the future. That was...
Well, it's all online that I do. It's all online. And so I do the running, I do the nutrition, but also the mindset piece, because the mindset is just so big. All those paradigms, all that comfort zone that the brain is just trying to keep you in, but just helping women worldwide believe in themselves and achieve things they never thought possible.
Women worldwide, yes. And where can women worldwide find you?
So it's gmaxspur_coaching on Instagram or Facebook, or my website, gmaxspur.com. So it's spur with 2 R's.
That's SPURR. So great.
So GMACSPURR.
Flow is produced by Bloodstream Media. Big shout out to our creative director, Amy Board, and to our editor, Alex Watson. New episodes will be available the second Thursday of every month.
Hey, that's the day after I start menstruating.